What if I told you that one of Hollywood's biggest superheroes nearly lost it all?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That behind the fame and fortune was a man battling demons so dark, prison seemed like the only way out? Robert Downey Jr.'s story isn't just about playing Iron Man. It's about surviving addiction, rebuilding love, and proving the world wrong. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're diving into the untold journey of the man who went from broken to legendary. Robert John Downey Jr. was born on April 4, 1965, in Manhattan, New York. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was a filmmaker known for experimental movies, while his mother, Elsie, was an actress. Creativity surrounded him from birth, but so did chaos. At just 5 years old, Robert appeared in his father's film, Pound, 1970, playing a puppy. Acting was natural, but his childhood was far from ordinary. His father openly used drugs and even introduced young Robert to marijuana before he turned 7, an act that planted the seeds of a lifelong struggle. As a child, Robert moved often, spending time in London where he studied ballet before returning to the US. By his teenage years, his parents divorced and instability followed him. Still, his passion for acting grew stronger. At 17, he dropped out of school and moved to Hollywood. In 1985, he briefly joined the cast of Saturday Night Live, and soon after, roles in Weird Science and Less Than Zero began to spotlight his undeniable charisma. The world saw a rising star, but beneath the surface, young Robert was already drifting toward dangerous habits that fame would soon magnify. By the early 1990s, Robert Downey Jr. was no longer just another actor. He was a phenomenon. His breakthrough came with Chaplin, 1992, where he transformed into the silent film legend with uncanny precision. The role earned him an Academy Award nomination and critical acclaim. Hollywood hailed him as one of the greatest actors of his generation, a man whose talent seemed limitless. Soon, he appeared in bold, unforgettable films like Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers and Richard Attenborough's Restoration, cementing his reputation as a versatile star. But while his career soared, his personal life began to unravel. Fame magnified the demons planted in his childhood. Drugs and alcohol became his companions, blurring the line between reality and escape. He once admitted, "It's like I have a shotgun in my mouth, and I've got my finger on the trigger, and I like the taste of metal." His addiction was no longer a secret. It was the shadow following him everywhere. On screen, Robert was magnetic, brilliant, and endlessly creative. Off-screen, he was reckless, unpredictable, and increasingly unstable. Friends, colleagues, and even directors worried he wouldn't survive the pace he was living. Hollywood had found its next great star, but it had also found its next great tragedy in the making. The late 1990s became Robert Downey Jr.'s darkest chapter. Despite his undeniable talent, he was consumed by drugs, cycling through arrests and rehab. In 1999, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for violating probation, ultimately serving about a year behind bars. Jail stripped him of Hollywood glamour and forced him to confront the reality of his addiction. His personal life also crumbled. His marriage to actress Deborah Falconer, which began in 1992, could not withstand his spiraling habits. Though they welcomed a son, Indio, in 1993, the strain of Robert's arrests and disappearances tore the family apart. Deborah left him in 2001, and by 2004, their divorce was final. Even career-saving opportunities slipped away. After winning a Golden Globe in 2001 for Ally McBeal, his progress was short-lived. He was fired after another drug arrest. Hollywood began closing its doors. By the early 2000s, Robert Downey Jr. was a broken man, estranged from his family, drowning in legal battles, and nearly forgotten by the industry he once ruled. In 2003, while filming Gothika, Robert Downey Jr. met a film producer named Susan Levin. At that time, his life was in shambles, fresh out of prison, divorced, estranged from his son, and struggling to rebuild. Susan was disciplined, grounded, and unlike anyone Robert had ever known. She was cautious at first. She knew his reputation, but Robert was determined to win her trust. Their connection grew, yet Susan made her stance clear. "If you don't get clean, we can't be together." For the first time in decades, Robert had something greater than drugs to fight for: love. He entered rehab again, leaned on therapy, and began practicing martial arts and meditation as part of his recovery. It wasn't an instant cure. He admitted there were relapses and temptations, but Susan's presence became his anchor. By 2005, Robert was sober and steady enough to marry Susan in a private ceremony in New York. She later said, "He's a man who decided he wasn't going to let his story end badly." With Susan by his side, Robert reconciled with his son Indio, began mending broken relationships, and reintroduced himself to Hollywood, not as a troubled star, but as a man fighting for redemption. By the mid-2000s, Robert Downey Jr. was sober, married, and determined to rebuild the career he had nearly destroyed. Still, Hollywood didn't forget his past. Studios labeled him a risk, insurance companies refused to cover him, and many directors were hesitant to give him another chance. But then came a small, quirky crime comedy, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, 2005. Robert's razor-sharp wit and undeniable charm reminded audiences of the brilliance they had almost lost. The performance caught the attention of both critics and filmmakers. Next came Zodiac, 2007, where Robert delivered a standout performance as a troubled journalist. Slowly, the industry began to trust him again, but his true breakthrough was yet to come. Director Jon Favreau, preparing to launch Marvel's Iron Man, 2008, believed Robert was perfect for Tony Stark. Marvel executives resisted, saying he was too unreliable. Favreau fought back, insisting, "Robert is Tony Stark, the guy who's been through hell and come out the other side. That's him." After screen tests, Robert landed the role that would change his life forever. For the first time in years, Hollywood wasn't questioning his reliability. It was celebrating his genius. The gamble had paid off. Robert Downey Jr. was no longer a fallen star. He was on the edge of becoming a legend. When Robert Downey Jr. stepped into the role of Tony Stark in Iron Man, 2008, it wasn't just another casting choice, it was a gamble. Marvel Studios risked their future on a man many believed was unhireable, but the gamble paid off. Robert infused Stark with charm, wit, and vulnerability, blurring the line between actor and character. Audiences didn't just see Iron Man, they saw Robert Downey Jr. reborn. The film launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, grossing hundreds of millions and transforming RDJ into a global icon. Yet, 2008 wasn't just the year of Iron Man. He stunned critics with his role in Tropic Thunder, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, a recognition that reminded Hollywood he was far more than a superhero. Over the next decade, he became the heart of Marvel, leading the Avengers saga and anchoring a billion-dollar franchise. His face became synonymous with redemption, success, and box office gold. Through it all, Robert showed up with discipline and humility, a stark contrast to his reckless past. Iron Man wasn't just his comeback role, it was the perfect reflection of his journey, a flawed man who built himself into a hero. Away from the spotlight, Robert Downey Jr. built the life he once feared he had destroyed. His marriage to Susan Levin in 2005 became the cornerstone of his recovery, a partnership that gave him strength and stability. Together, they founded Team Downey in 2010, a production company that allowed him to create and support stories beyond his own. Family life reshaped him. His first son, Indio, born 1993, came from his earlier marriage, while with Susan he welcomed Exton in 2012 and Avery in 2014. Fatherhood softened Robert, grounding him with a responsibility greater than fame. He often said, "She believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself," crediting Susan and his children as the anchors that saved him. But Robert didn't stop at Hollywood. In 2019, he launched the Footprint Coalition, an initiative to fund technologies fighting climate change, showing his desire to leave behind more than films. And in 2024, his career came full circle when he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in Oppenheimer, a crowning moment of recognition decades after nearly losing everything. Even after redefining himself as Iron Man, Robert wasn't done. In 2024, he stunned audiences when Marvel announced he would return as Dr. Doom, proving that his legacy isn't frozen in one role. He continues to evolve, daring to take risks and reinvent himself. In 2014, Robert Downey Jr.'s mother, Elsie Ann Ford, passed away, a moment that left Robert reflecting deeply on her influence. She had been his earliest supporter, standing by him through his darkest battles. Then in 2021, his father, Robert Downey Sr., died after a long fight with Parkinson's disease. Robert honored him as a maverick filmmaker and a complicated, yet loving force in his life. Critics hail him as one of the most versatile actors of his generation. Fans see him as proof that redemption is possible. His legacy is not just Iron Man, It's resilience, vision, and the belief that even the most broken can rise again. From prison cells to the pinnacle of Hollywood, Robert Downey Jr.'s story is living proof that no fall is final. He turned scars into strength, failure into fuel, and doubt into destiny. Today, he is more than Iron Man. He is a symbol of resilience, reminding us that even in our darkest hours, redemption is within reach. The question is, if he could rise from the ashes, what's stopping you from writing your own comeback story?
Hey, thanks for watching this amazing story, and welcome to Video Biographer, where every life has a story and every story deserves to be told. If you believe that every person has a journey worth knowing, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a life story that could inspire or inform you. Ready to explore more? Choose one of the videos on your screen and discover a life that you should know about. This is Video Biographer, where stories live and life speak. See you in my next video. If there's a life story you'd like me to cover, drop your suggestion in the comments. Until then, stay blessed and take care.